to the special meeting of November 19th. Madam City Clerk, can you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Chow. Councilmember Sinks. Councilmember Willie.
Here.
Vice Mayor Paul.
Here.
Mayor Scharf.
Here. Okay, great. So we have a quorum. Madam City
I'm
Clerk,
also
are there
here.
any? Okay, Councilmember
Hi.
Sinks is here.
Very good.
Sorry, Madam City Clerk, do we have any postponements?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, at the request of the city attorney, the city manager has removed item number 2 regarding the Anderson Dam matter from the agenda.
Okay, very good. So we will, hold on, let me scroll up here. We are on to oral communications. This is for items that are not on the agenda. Do we have anyone here that wishes to speak during oral? You know, I cannot see the, I can't see the attendees though.
Mayor,
I can take this if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Darcy, if you can manage this part. If there's any
This will be.
people that wish to,
I don't see any hands raised under the attendees. If okay, so there is a David D. David, I will unmute you.
and just a reminder, this is not on an agenda item. This is for items not on the agenda.
And you'll have 3 minutes. You can continue. You can commence speaking. David D.
Hi, I'm over here at the Wolf Camp on or by Apple. We were told today that you guys were speaking, so we thought we'd listen in and speak if we had the opportunity.
Okay, very good. We do have this item agendized, and so feel free to raise your hand again once we speak on the agendized item. Thanks very much. All right, so seeing no other hands raised, I'll bring this over back to Mayor Scharf. So Mayor
Okay,
Scharf.
okay, very good. So we have one item on the agenda. This is the emergency assistance funds to assist unhoused residents of the encampments located along Wolf Road near Interstate 280 to mitigate safety hazards, including COVID-19 and related budget modifications. So can we have the staff report, please?
Yes, I'll be doing the
I'm
staff
sorry.
report today. Oh, sorry.
Do we need to announce that item number 2 has been taken off the agenda?
Already did.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right, thank
Well,
you.
yeah, Kirsten did it during postponements.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Okay, everybody can see my screen, right?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, you can go to slide 2, Carrie. Uh-oh.
I'm going to set it up better. Give me one moment. Thank you. How's that?
Yes.
Very good.
Okay. You can go to the second slide. Okay, this is just a relative timeline. I have to correct myself because I was talking to a gentleman today who I know is online, Brian Barth. The Wolf Encampment did form in pretty much its entirety in March of this year, almost at the same time that the state issued the shelter-in-place directives related to our pandemic. In June, we convened the Cupertino Homelessness Task Force, which is basically 4 of us in-house in the city. And we started providing sanitation services to Wolf Road to include trash pickup, porta potties, and hand washing station at the 2 main sites of the encampment along Wolf Road. In July, we were able to reach out to the county, and the county led outreach and engagement efforts from then until today. And also starting in August, We did some outreach with Abode, and that continues now. So now we have quite a nice partner network that we're working with, a multi-agency, multi-nonprofit group that we're working together with in cooperation. The next steps, and I will come up with some of the details that I think some members of the public are seeking. In October, we established a kind of an emergency assistance plan for the Wolf Road encampment. In November, just today, we're going to be having our council meeting to approve the emergency assistance funds. Tomorrow, if all goes through the way that we would like, we will notice the encampments, notice to vacate the encampment site and do ongoing outreach and engagement. And I'll talk a little bit more about that plan in a moment. And then the resolution date will be December 12th. So as a reminder, there's a 72-hour requirement, and we're wanting to give the encampment members kind of the gravity of time, but without disturbing them on Thanksgiving. We know the week of Thanksgiving is next week, and Thanksgiving means a lot to everybody, whether they're housed or unhoused. So we decided to give them the time to take a look and celebrate the holiday the way that they do. And so finally, as our goal has always been, and what we've been stating, is that we are trying to put folks on a pathway to housing. It includes 6 months of support, which means a motel room, storage for the items they cannot bring with them, and supportive services. The storage units have been established at the storage units over there on Mary Avenue. I don't remember the address, but that's where the location is. We do have to establish a temporary alternate location that's safer for those that decline those services for housing. And then we will do cleanup efforts after the encampments are vacated, either to the motel or housing or to the outdoor location. Now here is a map, just because I think it's easier for folks to talk about. We have 2 main encampment sites. I call it all one encampment, but I know we're talking about 2 different locations. One is basically at 280 South on-ramp to the freeway. And the other location is towards Prune Ridge, as you can see, towards the Hamptons on the same side of Wolf Road. Next slide. So this is just another look at it, a little more clarity without the satellite view on the 2 main sites. And you'll see on the right-hand side map that is basically just a graphic, the temporary outdoor site, which I will spend a little more time talking about here in terms of details. It's easier to see on this right-hand map. It is located in the parking area next to pretty much, due to telework, vacant office space, not fully vacant, next to the intersection of Tantau and on Valco Parkway, a much less busy street than Wolf Road. Next. Here's a close-up of that area. Next. Before I get to the recommended action, let's go back just one moment to the location, the previous slide. So in this location, already we have some K-rail set up for barriers so that the folks who decide to take the outdoor location here would not be subject to vehicular mishaps. We also have some other equipment sitting out there thus far. This area is safer than the location they are currently located at. It remains equidistant to West Valley Community Services, and it is a place where they can have drainage for the rainy weather. So that they can be more comfortable and their inside belongings to the tents don't get wet as much as possible. In addition, it's easier for us to put the facilities here, the porta potties, the hand washing stations, as well as the trash pickup. It's easier to service those things at this location for obvious reasons. So this is where we think also it's flat. So they have, I believe, some equipment such as generators. They'll be supplied with new tents by our partner, Sandhill is participating in that way, providing tents, sleeping bags, gift cards for various things such as gas for a generator or food. So they'll be set up because we noticed that some of their equipment is in disrepair. So there's that detail. The thing that I haven't mentioned is that we have identified and pre-assessed, or we, the county, and I'll defer to Consuelo and or Lewis at this time. There's about 15 original encampment members in those two locations that were previously talked to and assessed. And so the first right of refusal for housing goes to them because they were the original encampment members from months ago. If in fact folks refuse some of those hotel rooms and wraparound services as indicated, what we will do is offer them up to as many of the rooms that are as declined. So in hopes to get the most people onto a pathway to housing as possible. For the folks that decide to live outside at this location, we will facilitate the movement of their belongings and them over to this location. And again, it's partially set up already in anticipation of that. Next slide. So the recommended action is to approve a budget modification transferring $200,000 in existing appropriations from the general fund to the below market rate affordable housing fund. Approve an allocation of the $200,000 in the BMR AFH for emergency assistance to assist unhoused members of the Wolf Road encampment, and authorize me to negotiate and execute any contracts necessary to facilitate the emergency assistance. And next, and now I'm open to questions. And I'll defer appropriate questions to both Lewis and Consuelo who are here. Louis Chacon is I'm sorry for mispronouncing your last name, Louis. He is the CEO of Abode, the housing provider. And Ms. Consuelo Hernandez is from the county's Office of Supportive Housing. She is the interim director. We're open for questions.
Okay, so first let's have council questions and then we'll go to the public comment on this. So I guess one question I have is, do we know how many of the unhoused residents will refuse the offer of temporary housing in the motel rooms?
Consuelo, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I could try to answer that. We don't have a sense of what that number will precisely be, but given the conditions right now, we think that we hope that people will choose that pathway. And as Deb mentioned, the whole focus here is to try to create a pathway to housing. So, shelter in a hotel is meant to be a interim process as people get to housing. So we're making this, hopefully, the partnerships have been developed here, make this as attractive as possible. But unhoused people, like all of us, have options in their lives and they will make choices. So we'll know after they're offered the options.
Okay. And then once the $200,000 is used up, hopefully everyone will have that once housing will, have that option by then.
Yeah, and let me just put a finer point on that. While I am asking for the $200,000 in the staff report, you can see that the cost for a 6-month accommodation is much more than that. So I really appreciate the partners who have stepped up to help us either with in-kind services that offset those costs for the 6 months, or that are just bringing cash or donations of different kinds of amounts. The reason that it's not completely balanced in the staff report is we only put in the amount that we have confirmed. There's more coming. more services coming, more chats coming, and more dollars that I know are on their way that will hopefully give the city a little more, yes, flexibility. So,
All right. Okay, those are my two questions. So can move on to other council members. Just speak up. I'm not going to call on people.
Okay. The question I would have is on one of the first slides that Deborah put up there, she said notice to vacate. And so I think that's kind of a scary wording. And maybe you can go on and discuss that a little bit more. Notice to vacate versus notice to be relocated. To me, those, even my verbiage isn't necessarily all that great, but notice to vacate really sounds
harsh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the official name of the notice. So in that notice, though, is like the location of where their stuff will be stored. They're going to be going to, there are, I believe, 12 rooms, correct me if I'm wrong, Louis, 12 rooms available at Abode's Casa de Novo location on the Alameda currently. So anybody who takes housing, that will be the first right there. And that's those are hotel rooms with wraparound services on site. And then the storage, of course, over here on Mary Avenue. So yes, I understand Councilmember Willie, but it's an official notice and that's what it's called. But on the notice is information both for the encampment members and those that are kind of around, so they know what it is.
So if you could say just a little bit more, okay, so the unhoused residents that we have there, so let's hope that virtually all of them choose the indoor 6 months, definitely through the cold, rainy season. But as Louis said, that they have other things in their lives to be concerned about, which we don't know. So if they chose not to go with option one, well, then there's the relocation over by Main Street. And if they, for some reason, chose not to go over there, again, I go back to that notice to vacate, to me kind of sounds like pretty scary that a truck is going to show up and load their stuff on it and be gone. And they may be out getting lunch or something. And so, I mean, really trying to understand what this would be.
So let me tell you. So notice to vacate, let's say it's tomorrow, but the actual vacate is December 2nd. So we're really giving them a week and a half notice. Okay. And what will happen is if this passes tonight, outreach will start immediately after that notice is posted tomorrow. They will actually go out there and do outreach tomorrow afternoon or however the day staggers. And throughout that period from the 20th through December 2nd, they will continue outreach until everybody gets to the place they want to be. In fact, if there are people that want to go to the outside location that we've established, we will facilitate their move there as well. So there'll be an organized staggering of events as we start with tomorrow throughout to December 2nd. So it's not without human interaction. The other thing I forgot to mention also is as the outreach happens in concert with the county, Abode, and the city, is that these folks will get an offering in writing so they can see it. They will, there's even something they could sign to confirm it if they so choose to sign it. If they refuse to sign, but they still want something, we'll put a little initial there, find some way to document it so they can see the offer and that it's firm. Because we do acknowledge that there were, first the September 21st kind of non-offer, and then some swirling around of a potential offer that we spent some time trying to figure out how firm it was. So this is firm. We want to make sure they know it is, that this is it. The city is putting money towards it. We have multiple nonprofits and charitable organizations plus the county putting their services forward for it and prioritizing it so that we can get this done together.
If I could add, the legal language is unfortunate, but it's actually a protection for unhoused people. I've been doing this work for a very long time, and it wasn't all that long ago that a city could just remove someone from a location without any process or notice. And so to the unhoused people that are participating on the call tonight, this is actually example of success in protecting your rights. The other thing I want to say real quickly is I've been working with the Cupertino staff now for, we've had 4 meetings, and it's all those meetings have shown to me how committed your staff is to the well-being of these individuals. So a lot of it has to do with what is really in your heart at the end of the day. And we all intend the best for the individuals out there. And the current condition, quite frankly, is not in the interests of those who are in the encampment. I mean, it's unfortunate we live in a community that has such a housing crisis that people end up on the streets. And sometimes they end up in really unsafe situations, which this is. So the options are safe, and there's a pathway actually to the ultimate goal here, which is to get people in their own independent housing.
Okay, Darcy, do you have anything?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, Rod?
No, I've received actually some extensive briefings from our city manager through the weeks, and I'm pleased that we are able to bring this proposal forth this evening, and I'm eager to hear public comment.
Okay, Leon, did you have anything?
So thank you so much for bringing this forward. It's really great. I understand it's $200,000 and for 15 members, but we are not sure how many might accept. So if you count, it is quite a big investment. So it's not just hotel rooms, it's also the wraparound services and not just your garden variety social services. So you will have services that really put them on a path back to housing. Could you describe a little more what extra things you do so people understand this investment is a worthwhile investment?
Absolutely, council member. So the first thing I would add is that there are county resources that already exist, and Abode Services is in contract already with some of those services. So those services will be leveraged into this project. And to answer you very directly, the services are really oriented towards housing. Abode means home, and that's what we're really focused on in every interaction we have with folks. Now, clearly we have to spend a lot of time helping people with other issues that are barriers to their getting into housing and barriers to them keeping housing, but it ultimately is always about housing. So specifically, those services will be provided by people who understand the local opportunities for moving into housing, who are connected, like the rest of our organization, with the county and other efforts to rehouse people. And that's various programs. It's the continuum of care, which is a very organized process. Santa Clara County is one of the premier examples of how to organize your homeless service system, because there is this process where the most vulnerable are assessed and placed into housing. So while we don't want to move people up in the queue to get a priority, we do want to help people navigate through that process so they can get into housing. And that'll be either scattered site and that's a regular apartment complexes where there's a master lease or tenant-based lease with a subsidy that brings the rent down to a level that the individual can afford, or it's in a permanent supportive housing site. We're currently developing 4 of those projects in Santa Clara County. There are other nonprofit developers doing the same thing, and those are communities that are created where there are services on site on an ongoing basis for folks in a environment where people can retain their housing and thrive. So there's a lot more to it, but that's a real quick overview of how the services would look.
So there will be housing is important, but I think the key is for some of the residents, I understand some are working and some, I assume they would like to eventually get back on their feet so they can support themselves. Some, I understand that we do need to continue to provide mental and health services for them. But
That's
for
correct.
those who are able to, so Abode will also provide services to help them find jobs, get back. So those are all part of the services.
That's correct.
Not just providing housing, right? Because that
Yeah, and then I think Consuelo also has something to add here.
Please.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, council member, for that great question. Part of the partnership with the county is aligning the resources that we have established because of COVID. So one program that we've submitted an application to the state for is roughly about $1.4 million towards what we call housing problem solving. And what that is one-on-one coordination with folks to get us to understand what services they need, what type, if they are employable and if they're currently working, through this housing problem solving, they are better able to navigate our system, but then also in some instances, they can self-resolve their homelessness because they have the attention of somebody that can help them through how do I connect to existing services and get a housing unit in the regular marketplace. So we're hoping to get that approval and be able to contribute that towards this project in conjunction with Abode, who's one of our service providers. So that's kind of one area that we're working on. And then also for folks outside of the 15, my team will continue to go out and engage and do what we always do, connect them through our hotline that we've set up right now because of COVID. So if they are open to going into a shelter, we do have a hotline that's providing additional services through that. And they will also get connected to housing problem solving through that avenue.
That's great. Thank you. I guess after public comment, I hope to hear more about what the Cupertino residents can do going forward.
Okay, so let's move to public comment. Darcy, would you mind managing that? Because I cannot see participants.
No, not at all. I have a Jenny, followed by Troy Alterman, followed by David D. Welcome, Jenny. I'm going to unmute you now. You'll all have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Darcy. Hi, I'm Jennifer Griffin. I live in Rancho Rinconada. I was interested in this because we have a very large homeless camp at Calvert and Stevens Creek Boulevard and Calvert Connector across from Shadow Oaks and Sage. And it's been largely ignored by the county. I'll get back to that in just a second. I'm very pleased to see that the Wolf Road folks are going to have offers of shelter. I certainly, no one wants to be out in the wintertime in this weather, so I'm glad that they're getting help. I'm wondering about anyone that's going to the Valco Parkway and Towntown site. Will that site be maintained in a cleaned up? We're not going to have the garbage issues there that we had at Wolf, are we? I'm concerned about debris going out in the road into Valco Parkway. I'm assuming that anyone that from the camps on Wolf that decides to go to the Valco Parkway property will be in tents and the site will be have showers available, and it will be maintained in a clean condition, that it will be maintained like there is a new homeless shelter that San Jose put in down in South San Jose by Rue Ferrari. I'm assuming that site on Delco Parkway would be maintained in that condition. I'm also wondering if we're going to get residents from the Wolf Road property going to the Calvert and Stevens Creek camp, or why can't those folks go and take advantage? So I'm asking the county to look at the Valco, Stevens Creek and Calvert Camp 2. It's been there for 8 months. There are 12 individuals. They are sitting on sewer lines right now. That is Caltrans property. It is Water District, City of Santa Clara, and Roads and Airport. This camp needs to be moved because it is subject to flooding in the wintertime if those sewer lines, and the camp is on top of the sewer lines. This is a critical, I have called the county. We haven't had any movement on it. I think that it's important that whoever is helping the Wolf Road people come like 200 feet down Stevens Creek Boulevard and look at this campsite, because it's right near 280. These folks are in danger. Anyway, I'm glad that the Wolf Road people are being taken care of, and I hope that the city of San Jose can reach out, and the county, and help the Calvert camp, because it's this big, it's just sitting there. It's
Thank
everyone.
You, Jennifer, your time's up. We'll go on to Troy Alterman. Next after Troy is David, and then Jim Moore. Welcome, Troy. I'm unmuting you now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm actually one of the residents here at the encampment. So a lot of the questions that you guys have, I can go ahead and answer for you here and now. So, I mean, I want to, first off, I want to thank you guys for actually doing something and giving us this opportunity for some help, because it's greatly needed and it's greatly appreciated. It's, you know, we've all been out here for a long time, and it's not easy at all. So I would like to know if whatever questions you guys have, I can go ahead and answer for you right now.
Let's do this, Troy. We'll go through the public comment, and when I bring it back to the mayor, it'll be his discretion, but I believe that council will be happy to ask questions at that point. All right, so thank you for your comments.
All right, I'll wait till the end.
Thank you, Troy. So I will now call on David. David, you're unmuted, followed by Jim Moore and Connie Cunningham. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I've grown up around here, lived here, well, off and on for 43 years, about maybe 9 miles away from here. I went to Bellarmine. I also went to California University, and have through circumstances, landed on hard times in this place. And from my point of view, like, I hear a lot of you talking for us, and I don't appreciate that. Like, we have not been included in any of these conversations, and I think that's just sort of that's not good foresight. And I also think that I can tell you from my experience out here that I personally, this doesn't help me. This hotel thing here helps me not, because I'm actually trying to get somewhere else, which is like Davis for me. But other places, people have different needs and things in their lives, and we are all very different. And I think you should give each individual an opportunity to talk about maybe their very specific needs, and that may fall outside your purview, but paying a bunch of other people to not help us is kind of it's insane. And this is like you can see from COVID. I don't know if you're aware of this, but many of us did actually receive some help through unemployment as a result of this, and it has made a tremendous difference in our community out here. And I'll tell you, like, a big deal about when you land in this community is that when things are rough and there's not a lot around, it's a really hard place to land. And I'll tell you that it could be any of us, and as it does happen, that land here, and it's not fun. And as Busy pointed out, so I would really like you guys to consider really like working directly with us instead of all this workaround, because we are willing to talk to you. I mean, we're educated, we're very intelligent people, we're not violent, you know, and I personally am willing to talk. I know that Troy is willing to talk to you, and also Roger and Jason, and actually many of us would like to have a voice on some level. So, you know, because all of us have something to say, and all of us, you know, need help. And you know, and a lot of us, you know, are out here actually, you know, taking care of the people you lose and get lost in our communities. You know, I'd probably be dead if other people weren't actually out here. So, you know, there's really a lot to think about, you know, in this situation. I mean, this is, you know, it's a homeless encampment in front of the largest or most expensive building in the
Thank you, David. I will go on now to Jim Moore, followed by Connie Cunningham. I'm unmuting you now, Jim. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I visited this afternoon the larger homeless camp on North Wolf Road, and I added 2 more residents to my total. I've now chatted with since June 17 of the residents. This afternoon, I provided about a half a dozen or more information about the meeting tonight. And I learned, as residents did yesterday, that they didn't know anything about the task force. They didn't know anything about the plan. And I found that disappointing that our city didn't go to the people, the residents in the homeless community, and chat with them about their needs. That's what I've been doing since early June. Let me go to some questions that I have. And you don't need to answer these now. I just want these to be on record. When will each individual resident be notified if they are included in the plan? What is the end date for the temporary campsite for this parking lot area that's nearby? How will that be determined? Some have jobs in the area. One of the ones that just spoke earlier from the homeless camp does work a day job. And so a need to be in the area is pretty important. Fourth one, and again, these are random. Almost all the residents have bicycles to get around. How will those be managed as far as if they move into a motel? And the motel that was talked about is, I guess, on the Alameda, and yet many of these residents have said they're here in Cupertino because they have Cupertino roots. So question I have is how many will want to move to a motel on the Alameda? A fifth one is, well, and this has been raised in emails before by me and others, will any of the camp residents be paid at a new campsite to maintain the camp? My suggestion is that they should be paid so that they clean the camp, because it is a community. Individually, they do the best they can, but for the whole camp, somebody needs to be employed and paid. I have another dozen or more questions, but I'll give up my 3 minutes because I think I've used that much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Good timing. You're right at 3 minutes. All right, so our next speaker is Connie Cunningham. Connie, I will unmute you now, followed by Danessa Tekmansky, followed by Leanna Crabtree.
Oh, good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor. I think kudos are I don't know. Anyway, kudos to the city manager for the homelessness task force and the formulation of this plan for assisting unhoused residents on Wolf Road. I agree that prioritizing a pathway to housing for 15 of Cupertino's vulnerable residents is critical. And it is heartening to read and to hear from Deb Fang that additional people at the site will also be assisted with temporary housing. The details of the staff report do show that our staff is developing a very good understanding of the complexity of the issues. Thank you for listening to many concerned residents and taking the time to answer questions. 6 months will be very helpful for each person, especially during these winter months of continued pandemic impacts. I urge the council to approve this recommended action. I also urge the council, as the city moves forward in working with the Santa Clara County Community Plan to end homelessness 2020 to 2025, that we continue to prioritize a pathway to housing for all of our unhoused residents. We have at minimum 159 in the last point in time count. That's 159 minus 15. A lot more needs to be done. Specifically, it is important to build more housing in Cupertino for people of all incomes and abilities, so that we do not wind up having more and more people becoming homeless, as we have seen even before the COVID pandemic, and now it worsens. And after hearing from the residents of the encampment, yes, I agree that it would be important to have a contact with them as well, just as they are planning to do in the Santa Clara County Community Plan to End Homelessness, having unhoused residents or people who have experienced homelessness being involved in their discussions. Thank you for your time.
I thank you, Connie. Our next speaker is Danessa Tekmansky, followed by Leanna Crabtree. Danessa, I am unmuting you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Anyhow, just a couple of things real quick. I know some of us have thrown around the idea of forming like an annex to our regular housing commission, like a, maybe temporary, especially through COVID, have a homeless commission as a sub branch of the housing commission, where they could be used as a contact. Maybe they could form questionnaires for the homeless residents and have their email addresses, so they could talk back and forth to bring them more into the process. I think, most of them probably have cell phones that they could email from, or they could borrow someone's. Because I feel like too, with COVID and just the way the economy is going, I think that the numbers of people out on the streets are going to grow. One other question, how many people will the new site hold? Do we know?
We have made plans for some portion of the 15 so far.
Okay,
So
but
if you go out there, you'll see some equipment has been set up, but it's not fully set up.
Yeah, I'll go down and look. I'm just wondering, as the numbers grow, I would prefer that we be proactive, have room for people, more people that might end up homeless this winter beyond what we have now. And then my last question, I guess, was, are there like social workers that come out to the homeless camp to help them with employment coaching or assistance? I know they have bikes, but if it's a long way to get downtown to get any kind of social services there, that's kind of hard. Is there anyone that comes out to them to help them with employment coaching?
Consuelo or Lewis?
Thank you, Deb. And thank you for the question. Yes, it depends on where they are located. So if they are currently staying in an encampment or in the facility that the city manager is setting up, we can work with our HEAT team, which is a contract that we have with the BODE, about how to connect them to those types of services. Definitely for the people that will be staying in the hotels, that's part of the wraparound services and the housing problem solving that I mentioned earlier. It's us trying to assess and understand what the individual needs are of each person or each household, and then that will frame a housing plan that will basically develop a pathway to housing for each individual household, which will be different.
Okay, thank you. Because
thank you, Danessa. That'll be the 3 minutes.
Thanks.
I'll move on to Leanna, and Leanna, you are unmuted now. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to make sure that I'm very respectful of everyone's work and also of the residents whose next home is in question right now. A couple of things. In the event that because the residents' needs are not aligned with the service option that the Unhoused Task Force has come up with, in the event that, you know, for some number of them, it doesn't meet their needs, I'm wondering how many people can be accommodated at the new location. And I don't require an answer at this time. I have that as a question. How many can be accommodated at I think it was Valco Parkway location? And the other thing it mentioned about the Valco Parkway location, it seems that it is private property. That concerns me. What assurances do the residents have that should they choose to take this safer location, that they won't be subject to, you know, down the road sooner than they expected eviction notices and unfortunately legal sightings? What protections do they have there?
Liana,
and then also in terms
Liana,
of,
I hate to interrupt, but it's public property. That's the only way I can't place people on private
it is
property.
public property. I'm sorry,
Yes.
it wasn't clear to me. It was mentioned it was a parking lot. I wasn't sure, but I'm relieved to hear
City
that.
owned. It's all that is public right of way.
Okay, excellent. The other comment was that the hygiene services mentioned included toilets and or porta potties and hand washing stations and trash pickup. But of course, hygiene services are much more involved in that. And I'm wondering about shower services, mobile shower services, or access to a location where the residents could shower. And services are really to promote dignity, and those are so critical in terms of helping people be able to, move on to a different and better place. My final comment is just, I hope that council doesn't feel rushed into making a decision tonight, because it seems that the unhoused residents have not had a chance, not offered a voice, that it would really be so helpful if we could have more dialogue with them before making a decision that affects their lives in such a profound way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leanna. And Leanna, you're the last public speaker. There are two hands still raised for the mayor's information before I bring it back to him. They are Troy Alterman and David D. I believe they are two residents at the encampment now. All right, thank you very much.
Might I?
Right, thank you.
Might I
Okay.
interject just before that? And that was to answer Liana's and I think Danessa's question. The current outdoor space is sized for 6 to 7 people, but can be expanded. And of course, we're trying to make the social distancing requirements too under the COVID requirements. The other thing I would say is, the county and Abode and everybody have been doing outreach since July. So I want you to know that the 15 people we identified have been spoken to. And while housing may not be their, the people that are speaking may not be their solution, the feedback we've gotten is it is a solution for some of them. So we'll see. I personally will want to see how that goes. As I said before, as after it's noticed tomorrow, should this item pass, then what will happen is that outreach will restart, and continue throughout until December 2nd. And continue on at the outside location.
Okay, so let's bring it back to council, including if any of us have questions for the residents of the encampment, which I believe are still on the line. So I guess I I do have one question. Do they have an idea of how many people will take the offer of the temporary motel rooms and how many don't want that and will want to move to the other location on Valco Parkway?
So I'm assuming that's a question for the residents.
Right, yes.
Unmute Troy. Both Troy and David have their hands up. And then when Troy, you're done, I'll unmute David if you'd like to answer that as well. Troy, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so first, let me acknowledge the fact David does not, in fact, live at this encampment and never has. He does not speak for anybody here. I want to make sure that's clear and understood. And as far as to answer your question about how many people are willing to move to this hotel room, that greatly depends on the temporary location. Because I do know that some people out here do prefer having their own space, so to speak, I guess, and that may not necessarily want to move to the Alameda. But that is a big contingent on how long this temporary site may last. So that's a question that we would need answered before I could give you an exact number. But I can tell you.
Okay, so yeah, maybe Deb could answer how long the temporary site, would be in existence. I know I served on the county's unhoused task force, and the goal, one of the 5 things they're looking into is sanctioned encampments for the short term.
Yeah, so this one is thought to be there for the length of the shelter in place or the warmer months or something like that. It'll move with that length of time so that Troy and others would have some certainty.
Okay, and we don't know how long the shelter in place is going to last.
Nope.
And then, even when the shelter in place is over, I know that legally we would have to offer some sort of housing to anyone in an encampment. You can't just do an eviction.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, anyone else from council, go ahead.
If council does have questions, if you could say who the question is for.
Yeah, okay.
I wonder what David would like to say. Where does
the question for David?
Yeah, but if he doesn't live in this camp, where does he live and what kind of things they need?
Okay, I'll unmute David now. David, you're unmuted. You'll need to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak, David.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes.
All right, so I'm here with Jason Barth and Bobby. You want to speak up?
Yeah, how you doing?
And Jason Barth.
Hi, how are y'all? How are y'all doing?
Hey, Derek, you want to speak up? You want to speak up? They don't want to talk. Well, anyways, I don't represent anybody here, but people do want to represent themselves, and there are actually maybe even someone who wants to talk.
David, are you willing to answer Councilmember Chow's question?
In terms, so honestly, from what people are putting forth to me, that they will not, they would like a firmer path to housing per se. But they probably would not take the deal, and they probably would not move to that other encampment.
No,
but
she was asking where you live and what do you need?
What do I need?
Which camp are you located right now?
I'm at the camp.
Which one?
Wolf.
South side of 280?
Yes.
Okay, so on most of the options that have been offered here, they are not suitable for you. Could you tell us
just
why?
Everybody's got different needs, and I don't want to speak for them personally on that. So.
Yeah, how about you? Why are they not?
I could use some help getting back to housing in Davis myself, and transportation. Yeah. But anyways, actually, there's another gentleman here who would like to speak if you give him the opportunity.
Okay.
Bobby?
The mayor.
Can you see me?
No, I can't see.
Sure, go ahead.
How are you doing? So I'm out here too, and a few of the main things that are out here is like transportation, like bus tokens or bus passes for the people that can't make it to certain, meetings that they're supposed to attend in order to get the flash passes. Some are disabled mentally, some are physically disabled, some are, just down and out and they've lost family members that have died, and they need to get around. And the only way to get around them sometimes is to, walk. They have to walk or something, and so if the homeless representatives could put up a request for, transportation, like they could go in and receive a monthly bus or 3-month flash pass if they have the medical chronos or the necessities that it takes, to be like type of emergency. And so a place where they can hang out during the day and charge their phones, and like if they have laundry or something to do, the things that so we don't get all grungy out here, because it gets dirty and grungy, and you can't help it, and you spend most of your day cleaning up, with paper towels and water, and sometimes that runs out. So those are a couple of the main things, and there's other things too. We're trying to figure out what we want to do with our. There's an offer of property or money.
Let's see if we can get another person too.
We don't know about that. We like a place to stay, but we don't want to be too restricted. We don't feel like we're in jail. But I have another friend here, Andre, that would like to speak to you. And
just a minute, can I ask you? So, right now there is an arrangement for a hotel with services. Would you consider that?
Oh yeah, I would. Yeah.
If you would,
I would.
I suppose it might be close to a bus stop, and we might work out the bus pass, I guess. So, you would consider that, right? Have you heard about this before today?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No, I heard something. Yeah. I heard something was going to maybe happen, like for the good of us. I didn't know exactly what it was until today.
So the good thing is the city funds transportation services through West Valley. So I'm sure we can figure that out.
Right. I'm sure. Yeah. Bus passes or tokens, whatever, can be, part of this. They would have to be, because, and also the storage you're saying is on Mary, but the hotel rooms are on the Alameda. So is the storage not intended for daily access? I guess it's just for long term.
It's for the stuff that they can't kind of bring with them. And then there'll be some periodic access that I would have to look to either Consuelo or Lewis to answer.
Okay. So there is another person who would like to speak. So that was Bobby, right?
No, I think both people spoke.
He said there was another. Okay.
Right. And that person spoke.
Yep.
Okay. So does anyone else on council have any questions now?
Can I ask some questions that the residents asked? Let's try. So I think Jimmo asked a list of questions. How do they know whether they are included or not? My understanding now is they are all included if they are willing, right?
So let me put a final on that. So since July, the county and Abode and have gone and done outreach at the campsites, and they know who the original 15 people are. They've been talked to. I believe they've all been assessed as well. And so they know who those are. So say the offering comes tomorrow, and then what happens is there's some people that will decline. We have no way of telling who will and who won't. You really have to make the offer. And then there'll be some rooms available that the 15 don't take. And then we will continue on for whoever's there until we run out, because there's only so many, and Abode has been keeping these rooms open, and we can't hold them open for much longer. So this offer will evaporate very shortly if we cannot. I'm not saying we're not rushing. Believe me, we've been working on this nonstop since the end of September. So I would say, in this case, perfect is the evil of good, and that we need to focus on what's the best offering we can make at this time. We, of course, will decide. Bus passes are easy. Bus tokens for 3-6 months, easy. That's easy stuff. We can definitely get it to people who need it. Like David D said, he'd like to be able to get back up to Davis. I don't see any reason why we can't get him a bus pass or some form of a token for transportation to get back to where he would like to be. So I would just say that, you know, in this case, nothing is going to be perfect. We have crafted this plan. This plan is like no other that I know of in this area or Northern California, possibly, or possibly the entire state. So, and Lewis told us that. He goes, you're trying to do something that hasn't been done before. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. And so I think that instead of picking the plan apart, I think that we should go forward and see if it works and helps people and gets people to housing. You heard at least one person say he wants housing.
Okay, that's great. So we have 15 spots, and the basically existing 15 that we know at the camp gets the priority. And
Correct.
if not all 15 are used, the new 2 people or any people from any other camp can also get on the list. But how do they get on? And also for the existing, what's the deadline when they have to make that decision?
So again, we have
So they get the
something
priority,
writing.
right?
When you go do outreach, you actually talk to them and we will log it. And, you know, if they want housing, we can get them there very soon, even before I finish the contract. We have an agreement with this partner, this great partner between the county and Abode, and we can do that like immediately for people that want to get there. We don't want to force them to get there. It's definitely their choice, but we have to go out and make the offerings. That's what I really want to get to.
But would they have a chance to visit the place? Because I can understand if you haven't seen the place, you don't know what the transportation will be like. How do they make that decision if they want to move or not, right?
Yeah, council member, that's a very fair question, and it's not uncommon for someone to ask for a tour of a site, and our staff will accommodate individuals to do that. I also want to add that those outside the 15, say we use up all the opportunities we have available in this, you know, this pot here, there, you know, the county has, and social service agencies throughout the county are working together with other options. So winter relief shelters are starting up in the next several months, and Consuelo can speak more to that. But those options will be for shelter, whether it's temporary shelters that are standing up right now or long-term shelters that are already in existence, will be offered to those folks as well.
Great. So I understand that we will reach out to the current camp residents, but how about the others who are not in that camp but would like to get on the list? Where do they reach out to say, I'd like to get on the list too?
Thank you, council member. And Deb, if I can answer that, the county will continue to do our outreach efforts, and we are maintaining our crisis housing hotline. And the best thing is for them to call the hotline and get on the queue to be offered a placement, whether that's a cold weather shelter bed or one of the temporary units or beds that we've set up as part of the COVID response. So our hotline is active. We are actually procuring services to continue that hotline beyond the COVID crisis so that folks do have an opportunity to connect and get on a list for shelter. So outside of the 15, they should call the hotline, and then somebody that is, the person that answers the phone includes a nurse. They will assess their health condition and offer them the best placement for them based on that condition.
So the hotline is, what's the hotline number?
Yes, and I can send the number, maybe Deb, I can send you the information and you can distribute that or through the city clerk.
Sure. Okay. And next question he had was, what's the end date for this camp? I understand from Deb is 1.5 weeks. That would be the last day they will have to at least move from the current site because the construction will be going on, right?
Well, it's not the only reason. The main reason is it's kind of unsafe where they are. It's not flat. It's on a freeway off ramp. You know, it's just not, it's a really busy street. So we're just trying to get into a place where those office buildings that the parking is close to.
Deb, that wasn't Jim's question. It was the end date for the sanctioned encampment on Valco Parkway,
I
and you
answered-
already
oh,
answered
I
that.
answered that already.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah, the one on Wolf, right, will end. That will have to be, you know, the people that will not accept the offer of the housing from Abode will move to the one on Valco Parkway, because the one on Wolf Road, you know, will not be there anymore.
okay. So some of them have a job in this area. And are there, how is the bus from Alameda to this area?
Well, as Deb said, that, you know, they will be provided with, you know, VTA Transit is providing that is not an issue. And there are, well, I mean, we all know VTA is not the fastest in the world, but there are routes from the Alameda that can get you, you know, basically anywhere in the county.
And that's, I think one of either David or Troy said many of them have bikes, so they could take their bikes with the bus and do the rest of the leg that they have to, like some of the other commuters.
So
as
they
well.
can still take their bikes using the bus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully there's storage in the hotel or in the motel for bike storage. Can the person from Abode answer, is there safe bike storage available?
Yes, and all the sites we operate throughout the Bay Area, bikes are a big part of the community. So we make accommodations for bikes.
Great. Next question, will any of them be paid at the new campsite? I'm assuming that's the Valco Park one, to clean the camp. So they get paid to do something
What?
And the new camp, could they help clean the site and get paid for cleaning it?
I'm not planning on that, no.
So right now it will still be city staff doing the cleaning.
Yeah, it's the responsibility of encampment members to keep it clean. We have provided as many facilities and trash bin pickups, even a big dumpster for their larger things, to keep it clean as possible for them.
Okay, so how many will the new alternative site hold? Do we know? Or
Yeah, Deb already answered that.
That question.
Oh, wait, how many? I didn't.
6 to 7, but it's
6 to
expandable.
7. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would there be mobile shower services or access to a location where residents could shower?
Not that I know of.
I'm going to, at this point.
Yeah, you want to, yeah, I was going to do, but go ahead and make the, right,
I'd
make the motion.
Make the following motion. I'll withhold my comments other than to say that I'm supportive of these and other future efforts that will hopefully be forthcoming. My motion is this: I move that City Council adopt resolution number 20-135 approving budget modification number 2021-107, transferring $200,000 in existing appropriations from the general fund to the below market rate or BMR Housing Special Revenue Fund, approving the allocation of $200,000 in BMR Affordable Housing Funds, or AFH, for emergency assistance to assist unhoused members of the Wolf Road encampment, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute any contracts necessary to facilitate the emergency assistance. In addition, I move that we authorize the city manager to conduct follow-up to this meeting based upon comments from the public and council provided for this agenda item, and to bring back any further recommended action to council at a future date. Thank you very much. That is my motion.
Sure, I'll second the motion. So is there any more discussion by any other council members?
I have a couple comments. So
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Be brief.
Well, the first comment is about communication with the residents that are in these camps, and they've said that they haven't really been a part of the discussion, and they feel they haven't been asked. I'd like to see that there is a good communication channel. This isn't the right way to characterize it, but I mean, at a particular building, you know, there's a window and, you know, you go up, or even the counter at City Hall, when somebody had a question, where should I go to do this or do that? But we don't have that with the camps. But what I would like to suggest is that there be a definitive way that everybody would know they can communicate with the city. And by that, it could look like maybe somebody from the city, stops at the camp Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12 noon. Pass out some flyers that somebody from city staff would be there Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon to answer questions, possibly hand out bus passes, things of that nature. Ask, if they have concerns, if they have questions, they've got a connection with the city, so that they're not feeling that they're truly left out and not being consulted. So that's my first.
So Deb, before you go on, Deb, can you comment on what we're currently doing in that regard?
Yeah, so the outreach that would start tomorrow, should this motion pass.
No. What have we done in the past in that regard in terms of making contact?
From July, the county and Abode went out there to do periodic outreach. Sheriff is out there doing outreach, not from a law enforcement perspective, but just making sure that they're checking on everybody. But starting tomorrow, right, we would couple a city person to go out there with Abode and county in a very coordinated outreach effort.
Okay. All right. So sorry, John, go ahead with your next question.
Yeah, well, I'll just finish up with that first question. See, it still doesn't sound like city staff has somebody that is designated to actually talk with the residents in these camps. And that's where I'd like to suggest that we ask the city manager to somehow, is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Is it twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday? Something that there is a definitive connection for them. So that's the ask. The second comment, I think this is great. Wow, $200,000, and it's going to be joined with money, as I understand it, from the county and from Abode. So great, sounds good. The comment I would like to make is, I would like to see the city manager in this instance be given the greatest amount of discretion over that money, that the needs can change from a week to week or a month to month basis. And she shouldn't have to come back to us and ask us how to juggle this. We have residents suggesting that if they had some bus passes, it would help, things of that nature. And if the city manager looks at what's needed for the hotels, what's needed for the relocation, and things of that, and what's needed for the sanitation services, cleanup services, and then say, well, with what's left, dividing it in ways that will help the residents of these camps to the greatest extent possible. So that's number two. Number three then would be, I'd like to suggest that we have a follow-up meeting. Okay, we don't know how tomorrow's meeting is going to go. Let's assume that we do approve this. We don't know how many of the residents are going to take option A or option B or none of the above. No matter what the outcome is, I would like to at least get some significant updates so that we know if we need to make adjustments or make changes, in how we can help, how the community can help. And without, having a good understanding that we are in this process and that we're very willing to rediscuss this and adjust as needed. I'd like that message to truly be out there and not have it be a one-time thing. But we did this and then, whatever played out. No, I'd like to continue to be in it to provide help if needed, additional help if needed. Yeah. So those are my comments.
So Rod, did you have anything before we vote on the motion?
Yeah, I just really appreciate the deal that's been put together here. I also served on the Unhoused Task Force, and thank Consuelo and our city manager and Abode for working this out. I know it's taken a while. She's been we've worked diligently to solve the problem, and I'm glad we've gotten it done. And this will hopefully be a solution that's temporary, and we ought to all think about the next step, which is to build more permanent supportive housing in places that include Cupertino. So I'm hoping, that with whatever comes up and whatever proposals we can cook up, that we have solutions that allow us to permanently house people in our region in places, including our city. I think that's really the answer. We just need to build a lot more housing, and if we do that, then we have a better shot at making this a place where I will be proud to have served in local government. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm hopeful that hopefully with the new administration in Washington, we will have more money allocated to cities in order to build the subsidized housing. Unfortunately, the state has not come forward with money since redevelopment went away to build this affordable housing. And, we're kind of stuck here. Obviously, we don't have, the kind of money locally to build that we need help from our federal and state governments. And hopefully that will be forthcoming after January 20th. So, Kirsten, seeing no more council comments, can we do a roll call vote?
Councilmember Chow?
Can I finish my question? I do still like the answer. Where can they shower? Are there facilities at least they can go maybe once in a week? Are there county places where they can go?
Right. Can someone from the county answer that? Are there any shower facilities for people that choose not to take advantage of this program?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council Member. We will work with the city manager to see what other resources there are out there in terms of mobile showers. Because of COVID, our existing programs are at capacity, but we will work that into our plan to see if it's possible to expand the existing services.
So
I don't have an immediate answer for you right now. It sounds like you'll be looking for updates, and happy to report on that. In addition to the bus passes, for instance, we have an uplift program that provides folks with a free VTA pass as part of our program. So I understand that there's a concern about showers. So the county will address it with the city manager.
Wait, so the county has homeless shelters. Do the shelters make their facilities available for others to use?
So council member, right now, because of COVID, a lot of the rules for shelters are different. So I'd rather not give you a response right now that's not accurate. So we understand the concern, and we will address it in our team meeting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I'd also like to remind council that on December 15th, you'll be considering the county's plan to end homelessness at that city council meeting. So the discussion will continue.
Okay. Yeah, I read that plan. That's a list of strategies that doesn't really have things we really can implement. So,
well, it's not on the agenda tonight.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So
all right.
I think this is the beginning of what we can do, not the end. So let's continue to see one more. We have 15. There are 150 more. So,
okay, Kirsten, can you conduct the roll call, please?
Councilmember Chow?
Aye.
Councilmember Sinks?
Aye.
Councilmember Willie?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Paul?
Aye.
Mayor Sharp?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. That was the only item on the agenda since item 2 was postponed. So, Madam City Manager, did you have anything else before we adjourn?
I don't. Thank you so much for the support.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. And hopefully we will move forward and solve this problem. Adjourned.
Thank you.